The Justice League is the blueprint. Every superhero team since 1960 is either copying it or desperately trying not to. But here's the thing, DC literally invented the modern superhero team with 7 icons, and their first threat was a giant alien starfish. If that doesn't make you want to keep watching, I don't know what will. The original 7, the Justice League, debuted in the brave and the bold Luscura 28 with a March 1960 cover date. 7 heroes: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter. They showed up, fought a starfish, and changed comics forever. Their first villain was Starro the Conqueror, an alien starfish. That controlled people's minds by attaching smaller starfish to their faces. This was the threat that required 7 of the most powerful beings on Earth to stop. And honestly, it worked. The team defeated Starro when Green Lantern created Lime to neutralize the spores, which is genuinely how you kill starfish in real life. DC did their research on the space starfish, but here's where it gets weird. The team also had Snapper Carr, a teenage kid with 0 powers who just hung out with the Justice League because he helped them once. He was literally designed as a self-insert for young readers. DC said here's Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and also Todd from your algebra class. Snapper Carr is the weirdest footnote in League history, and nobody talks about it enough. 2 years later, in Justice League of America #9, DC retroactively rewrote their origin. Turns out the real first mission wasn't Starro. It was fighting Appalachian invaders who turned the heroes into trees. The Flash came up with the team name during that battle, calling them a League Against Evil. So the iconic origin everyone knows is actually the second version DC published. The original 7 created the template. Big threats require multiple heroes, distinct power sets working together, a headquarters, a purpose beyond individual heroics. Every lineup that came after either follows this formula or deliberately breaks it. And at least this team fought a starfish with actual strategy, unlike the chaos that was about to hit when the United Nations decided to sponsor a superhero team in the late 80s, Justice League International. In 1987, DC Comics did something genuinely insane. They took their flagship superhero team, the one with literal gods and the most powerful beings on Earth, and replaced them with a bunch of B-listers led by a corporate shill. And it somehow became one of the most beloved Justice League runs in history. Here's the thing, Justice League International debuted in November 1987 as a direct continuation of Justice League number 25, maintaining the same numbering sequence. But everything else changed. Maxwell Lord, a smooth-talking businessman, organized the team under United Nations sponsorship, and instead of recruiting Superman or Wonder Woman, he deliberately assembled lesser-known heroes. Booster Gold, a time-traveling glory hound. Fire and Ice, heroes nobody outside their home countries had heard of. Guy Gardner, the Green Lantern nobody liked. And Blue Beetle, a genius inventor with 0 actual superpowers. The series was written by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis, with art by Kevin Maguire, and they leaned hard into comedy and satire. This wasn't a team fighting cosmic threats. This was a team struggling against bureaucratic red tape and office politics as much as supervillains. They had budget meetings. They argued about parking spots. It fundamentally redefined what a superhero team book could be. But the best element, and the emotional core of the whole thing, was the friendship between Blue Beetle and Booster Gold. They first worked together in Justice League number 4, and by issue 8, their bromance was cemented. 2 heroes who weren't the strongest or the fastest, just 2 guys who genuinely liked each other and happened to fight crime together. Pure comedy gold mixed with genuine heart. DC benched its A-listers and handed the franchise to B-listers and comedy writers. And it worked because the characters felt real. They weren't gods. They were people with powers trying to figure out how to be a team. The series ran for 19 main issues before splitting into Justice League America and Justice League Europe, but its influence lasted decades. But if you think a comedic Justice League sounds weird, wait until you hear about the team that brought back the godlike powerhouses and turned the League into literal Pantheon-level beings, the Pantheon JLA. In 1996, DC basically looked at what the Justice League had become and said absolutely not. Grant Morrison and Howard Porter launched JLA issue 1 that November, and the mission statement was simple: bring back the Big 7. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, Flash, and Green Lantern. No comedy, no B-listers arguing about the office fridge, gods, and here's the thing. Morrison didn't just put the original roster back together and call it a day. He explicitly wrote them as a modern pantheon. These weren't superheroes having team meetings. They were mythological figures operating from a watchtower in orbit, solving problems that would make entire civilizations collapse. Superman was the sun god, Batman was the shadow, Wonder Woman was the warrior. Every member had a role in the mythology, and Morrison leaned into that harder than any writer before him. The sales proved the approach worked. JLA became DC's best-selling title multiple times across its run, putting out 125 issues before wrapping in February 2006. Turns out people actually wanted their Justice League to feel important again. But the real standout is the Rock of Ages arc, issues 10 through 15. Lex Luthor assembles an Injustice gang to take down the League, which is already a bad day. But then it gets worse. The story spirals into a dystopian future where Darkseid has conquered Earth and is using the League's own watchtower as his personal headquarters. The heroes end up trapped in a cosmic chess game across time, fighting a war on two fronts simultaneously, past and future. It's Morrison at his most unhinged, and it somehow all holds together. Then there's the Obsidian Age epic, issues 66 through 76, where the entire team gets sent back to ancient Atlantis. An ancient super team has been waiting for them, because apparently a prophecy declared the modern League would destroy the Earth. So naturally these ancient heroes try to kill them on sight, which is, not ideal. This is the version that fans still call the gold standard, the definitive Justice League. Morrison treated these characters like they deserved to be treated, and for a lot of readers, nobody's matched it since. But if you think operating as gods kept the League clean, wait until you hear about the Black Ops division they tried to pretend didn't exist. Justice League Elite. Here's a question nobody asked, but DC answered anyway. What if the Justice League had a Black Ops team that still refused to kill anyone? Because that's exactly what Justice League Elite was. A covert unit that operated in the shadows, handled the threats too dirty for the main League to touch publicly, and then drew the line at the one thing that would actually make a Black Ops team effective, which is, not ideal. The team spun out of JLA under 100 in 2004, then got its own 12-issue limited series from 2004 to 2005, written by Joe Kelly with art from Doug Mankey. The premise was simple. Some threats couldn't be handled by Superman flying in with a camera crew, so the League needed a squad that could operate without the spotlight, without the press conferences, without the accountability. A don't ask, don't tell covert operations unit working out of an abandoned building in Somerset, New Jersey they called The Factory. Very glamorous. The roster was a mix of reformed villains and undercover heroes. Cassandra Cain operated under the alias Kasumi. Coldcast, Major Disaster, Manitou Raven, Manitou Dawn, Menagerie, and Naif Al-Sheikh filled out the team. But here's where it gets weird. Flash and Green Arrow were also on the team. Two of the most recognizable heroes on the planet. Their solution? Alternate costumes. Just throw on a different outfit and suddenly nobody knows you're the guy who runs at the speed of light. Foolproof plan. The central tension was honestly pretty compelling though. Every mission pushed them closer to the line they swore they'd never cross. You're running covert ops against threats that would make most heroes flinch, and your one unbreakable rule is no killing under any circumstances. That's like being a firefighter who refuses to use water. The mandate and the morality were constantly at war with each other, and that friction drove the entire 12 issues. It all ended when Vera Black, Sister Superior, had to face down her own brother Manchester Black in the final issue. After that confrontation, the team disbanded. 12 issues of moral compromise, secret identities worn over secret identities, and an abandoned factory in New Jersey. And people say DC doesn't take risks. But if the Elite was DC testing the waters with a grittier League, what came next was a full cannonball into the deep end. Because the New 52 didn't just change the roster, it rewrote the entire foundation. The New 52 Justice League. On August 31st, 2011, DC Comics did something that should have been impossible. They rebooted their entire universe. Every character, every timeline, every relationship wiped clean and rebuilt from scratch following the Flashpoint event. And when the dust settled on the new Justice League lineup, the biggest change wasn't a new costume or a different origin story. It was a person. Martian Manhunter, one of the original 7 founding members of the Justice League since 1960, was out, and Cyborg was in. Victor Stone had been a Teen Titan for over 30 years at that point, created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez. He'd always been a beloved character, but he was firmly second tier when it came to the League. The New 52 changed that overnight, elevating him to founding member status alongside Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, and Green Lantern, which is, a pretty significant promotion. Here's where it gets complicated. The reaction was split right down the middle. On one side, people praised DC for finally putting a black hero on the founding roster of their most iconic iconic team. On the other side, fans pointed out that this came at the direct expense of J'onn J'onzz, a character who had been central to the league's identity for over 50 years. Some felt like it was genuine progress. Others felt like it was a trade nobody asked for. The origin story itself got a complete overhaul too. Gone was the Apalaxian invasion that brought the original team together. In its place, Geoff Johns and Jim Lee wrote a Darkseid-driven parademon invasion that forced these heroes into reluctant cooperation. And Reluctant is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. The early issues featured a team that genuinely did not like each other. Batman didn't trust Green Lantern. Green Lantern didn't trust anyone. Superman was basically a walking threat that everyone was slightly afraid of. They operated out of a watchtower orbiting Earth, which feels appropriate for a group of people who could barely stand being in the same room. The whole thing was darker, more contentious, and more grounded in distrust than any league before it. Whether that was an improvement depends entirely on who you ask. But if you think a team of reluctant heroes dealing with trust issues sounds intense, wait until you meet the league that handles the threats too weird and too magical for any of them to touch. Justice League Dark DC finally admitted its main league couldn't handle everything, specifically magic. And they were right. Justice League Dark debuted September 28, 2011 as one of the new 52's first wave titles. While Superman was punching aliens and Batman was doing detective work, this team was dealing with demons, curses, and eldritch horrors that would make the average superhero wet themselves. The core roster featured John Constantine, Zatanna, Deadman, Madame Xanadu, and Shade the Changing Man. Peter Milligan wrote the initial run, which lasted 40 issues, from 2011 to 2015. Here's the thing about this team. They operated without official UN sanction. They were a provisional Justice League division under Zatanna's chairmanship, with strict parameters preventing members from succumbing to magical corruption, which sounds reasonable until you realize one of their members is John Constantine, a chain-smoking con artist whose entire character is built around making morally questionable decisions and pissing off demons. Putting him on a Justice League team is like hiring a known arsonist to guard a fireworks factory. It could work, but you're going to spend a lot of time wondering if it should. The tonal contrast between this team and the traditional spandex and capes league is stark. While the main league held press conferences and fought in broad daylight, Justice League Dark was crawling through sewers filled with magical parasites and negotiating with entities that existed before time itself. Deadman is literally a ghost possessing people. Shade the Changing Man's entire deal is being from another dimension and having reality warping insanity powers. These are not the kind of heroes who show up to ribbon-cutting ceremonies. But here's where it gets interesting. The team received 2 animated adaptations, Justice League Dark in 2017 and Justice League Dark: Apocalypse War in 2020. Those films significantly expanded the team's mainstream recognition beyond comics readers. Suddenly, people who had never heard of Zatanna were asking why she wasn't in the live-action Justice League movie. Constantine, who already had his own TV show that got canceled, found new life as an animated character. The films gave this occult horror team a cultural footprint that rivals some of the comic-only lineups that came before it. And unlike some experimental Justice League rosters that quietly disappeared, Justice League Dark proved there was an audience for supernatural superhero content. The concept has been relaunched multiple times since the original run ended, spawning spin-offs and crossovers that continue to this day. If you think a team of magicians and ghosts is weird, wait until you hear about the team DC sent into deep space to fight ancient cosmic gods. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen. Now, Justice League Odyssey. This is, without question, the single weirdest roster to ever carry the Justice League name. And I need you to understand, I'm saying that after we've already covered a team with a literal ghost on it, because Justice League Odyssey looked at the concept of a superhero team and said, what if we sent a cat into space? The lineup was Cyborg, Starfire, Green Lantern, Jessica Cruz, Orion of the New Gods, and Dex Star. Dex Star is a Red Lantern. He is also a cat, a rage-fueled, power ring-wielding house cat vomiting napalm plasma across the cosmos, and he was on the Justice League. I don't know what to tell you. The series ran for 25 issues from September 2018 to October 2020, written by Joshua Williamson with art by Stjepan Sajic, and it launched as part of DC's New Justice Initiative. The premise was genuinely cool sci-fi. The team was investigating something called the Ghost Sector, a region of space filled with ancient planets that had been shrunk down by the Coluans and then suddenly released back to full size by the Justice League. So you've got these massive ancient worlds just popping back into existence with zero context, and somebody has to go figure out what's on them. But here's where it gets really interesting. The series took Cyborg, a character who had spent basically his entire existence punching things things in Detroit and complaining about his dad, and turned him into the new god of code, a literal technological deity capable of interfacing with ancient alien technology on a cosmic scale. Victor Stone went from guy with a cannon arm to entity that can rewrite the fundamental architecture of alien civilizations. That's not a power upgrade, that's a career change. The team traveled to planets tied to each member's personal history, which is a brilliant structural concept that most team books never even attempt, and the whole thing built to a final showdown against Darkseid in issue 25 that reshaped the cosmic landscape across every sector of space. The scope was enormous. The ambition was real. Here's the thing though, despite all of that, barely anyone read it. Odyssey existed in this strange liminal space where it was too cosmic for casual readers and too disconnected from Earth for traditional League fans. It was a book about a cat, a new god, and a man becoming a space deity, set in a region of space most readers had never heard of, which is either the most ambitious thing DC ever did with the League brand, or the most niche. Probably both, but if you think Odyssey pushed the boundaries of what a Justice League book could be, the next one didn't just push them, it redrew them entirely. The absolute Justice League. Every lineup we've covered so far operates on one fundamental assumption. Heroes are good, villains are bad, and the Justice League exists to stop them. Absolute Justice throws that entire framework in the garbage. This 12-issue series, written by Jim Kruger with pencils by Doug Braithwaite and fully painted by Alex Ross, published from 2004 to 2005, is probably the most ambitious Justice League story ever put to paper. Alex Ross's photorealistic painted artwork took over 2 years to complete because every single panel was hand-painted to look like a Renaissance oil painting starring Superman. The result is a book that looks like someone hired a classical artist to document the apocalypse. The premise is simple on the surface. A cosmic threat emerges so catastrophic that the Justice League and the Legion of Doom have to work together to stop it. Heroes and villains, side by side. Throughout the story, both sides experience prophetic dreams that compel their cooperation. Lex Luthor and Superman sharing visions. Sinestro and Green Lantern on the same page, which is, you know, not ideal for anyone's comfort level. But here's where it gets complicated. The series' central twist reveals that the Justice League and the Legion of Doom were both created by the same ancient organization. Heroes and villains, two branches of a single tree, designed to guide humanity's development from opposite directions. The villains existed to prevent self-destruction through fear. The heroes existed to inspire progress through hope. Neither side knew. They spent decades fighting each other, and the entire time, they were co-workers. Let that sit for a second. Every battle, every rivalry, every world-ending clash between good and evil in DC history, recontextualized as two departments in the same company having a disagreement. The story goes further, showing superheroes secretly influencing world events since the 1940s, with the League and Legion operating as rival arms of this shadow organization without ever realizing they shared the same employer. It's the most philosophically daring thing DC has ever published, under the Justice League banner. Every other lineup on this list defined itself by who it fought against. The original 7 fought alien conquerors. The International Team fought bureaucracy. Morrison's Pantheon fought gods. The New 52 fought Darkseid. Justice League, Dark, fought demons. Absolute Justice asked a different question entirely. What if the fight was never real? What if heroes and villains were always two halves of the same coin, manufactured by forces older than either side? It doesn't just challenge the Justice League. It challenges whether the concept of heroes versus villains was ever anything more than a story we told ourselves. The 2024 oversized hardcover brought this whole thing back into print, and honestly, good, because not every Justice League lineup punches harder or recruits weirder members. Some of them just ask a question so uncomfortable that you can't stop thinking about it. And that might be the most powerful thing a lineup can do. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.